In the late 13th century, Anatolia was a fractured land. The once mighty Seljuk Sultanate was crumbling. The Byzantine Empire was weak. This chaos allowed smaller Turkic tribes to rise. Among these tribes were the Oghuz Turks, migrating westward. They were driven by the Ghazi Spirit, holy warriors dedicated to expanding the frontiers of Islam against Byzantium. One such tribe was the Kai, and from one such tribe, the Kai, emerged a charismatic leader, Osman I. His vision, bravery and leadership would lay the foundation for an empire that would span centuries. This is the first episode of the rise of the Ottoman Empire. Today we'll explore how Osman I united the Ghazi tribes, conquered Anatolia, and laid the foundations for an empire. Let's begin. Osman's small territory, or Beylik, was strategically located on the Byzantine frontier. This allowed him to constantly raid Byzantine lands, gaining territory and attracting more followers. We'll take a closer look at each of these three aspects of Osman's rule in today's episode. But first, let's start with a quick disclaimer. Osman is usually presented as a great conqueror and the founder of the Ottoman Empire. However, most historians nowadays are moving away from this kind of Manichaean narrative, where one leader single-handedly builds an empire out of nothing. Instead, recent scholarship recognizes the role of broader networks and structures in which individual leaders play a part, but not the whole. So while I'll mention Osman's personal achievements in today's video, I'll also try to show how he and other Ghazi leaders built upon the foundations laid by earlier generations. With that said, let's dive in. When Osman came to power, the surrounding Beyliks pressured him to convert to Islam. While the exact timing is debated, most scholars agree that Osman I converted his tribe to Islam sometime during his reign. Scholars debate why exactly he did so. Some argue that pressure from neighboring Muslim beys forced him to do so. Others believe that he genuinely accepted Islam after having visions or dreams about the Prophet Muhammad. Whatever the reason, becoming Muslim shaped his outlook and actions as a ruler. Now known as the Emiri of the Kai, Osman began to solidify his position by expanding his domain through conquest and diplomacy. The Ghazi ideal of raiding Byzantine territories attracted many free-spirited Turkic warriors, who preferred living by their swords rather than working as farmers. In fact, some scholars argue that the Ghazi ideal was a reaction to the sedentary lifestyle imposed on the Oghuz Turks by the drier climate of Anatolia. So these free spirits joined Osman because they wanted to maintain a more nomadic lifestyle. These warriors provided Osman with an elite fighting force that helped expand his control over Anatolia. For example, around 1299, he expanded his influence over the nearby Beylik of Bilecik. Its ruler had rebelled against the Abbasid Caliphate and needed help putting it down. After defeating the rebellious emir, Osman settled them with land and adopted them into his own tribe. This expansion brought the Kai into direct conflict with the Byzantines. As Osman I's biographer recounts, everyday bands of Byzantines entered the district of the Kai, taking captives and committing all kinds of evil deeds there. So then Sheikh Edebali said to the emir, "If you want to have this place, you must wage war against those people." This is why Osman waged war against the Byzantines, and it is a pretty good summary of the Byzantine-Turkic relations in Anatolia. During the late Middle Ages, the Byzantines often relied on mercenaries to defend their borders, many of whom were non-Byzantine Christians or even Muslims. This doesn't mean that there wasn't a lot of hostility between the Byzantines and the Ghazi Turks, but it does remind us that both sides weren't always clearly demarcated. And as I mentioned before, many Ghazi leaders adopted Byzantine prisoners into their tribes, adding to their ranks. In 1326, Osman I set his sights on the Byzantine city of Bursa. Why did he choose this particular city? Well, it was an important commercial center, giving him access to the riches of the Byzantine world, and it was close to Constantinople, allowing him to threaten the very heart of the Byzantine world. Plus, it was strongly defended, offering prestige and glory to whoever captured it. The siege lasted for months. According to Ottoman historiography, Osman used guerrilla tactics to weaken the city's defenders, but eventually he fell ill and died before the city fell. Osman's death is an excellent example of how the later Ottoman glorification of a certain event can obscure the reality of the time. To see what I mean, let's compare the Ottoman history book with the contemporary Venetian account of the siege. The Ottoman history book recounts that when Orhan heard the news of his father's death, he called for a truce and sent an envoy to the governor of Bursa demanding its surrender. But when the Byzantines refused, Orhan immediately attacked and took the city 2 days later. The Venetians, however, give a very different account. First, they say that Orhan actually fled from Bursa after his father's death because the Byzantines threatened to kill all Turkish prisoners unless Orhan retreated. Then Orhan regrouped and besieged Bursa again, only succeeding because of internal strife within the city. The point here isn't to prove either side right or wrong, but to show that there are multiple perspectives and interpretations of the same event. Understanding these nuances allows for a deeper understanding of the past. Later, in 1326, Orhan completed the conquest of Bursa, making it the first major Ottoman capital. After Osman's death, Osman's Beylik was in a precarious position. There was an ongoing war with the Byzantines and the Karamanids, another Turkish tribe. Fortunately for the Ottomans, Orhan inherited a well-organized administration. Under Osman I, the central government had grown to include viziers and a treasurer, laying the groundwork for a more sophisticated bureaucracy. And I'll talk more about how the Ottomans developed their institutions and armies in my next video. Orhan's legacy. So what was life like in the Ottoman Sultanate under Orhan's rule? What were its territorial changes? Did the Ottomans adopt new cultural practices? Which empires were on the Ottomans' horizon? I'll answer these questions and more in the next episode. Thank you for joining me on this journey through history. If you found this story exciting, please show your support. Your engagement helps us bring more epic tales to life. Can't wait to see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, keep asking questions, and remember, the past is never far gone. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider supporting us. Your support means a lot to us and helps us keep bringing you amazing historical tales. If you'd like to go further and want to learn more about the Ghazi Ideal and its relation to modern Turkish identity, I highly recommend the book The Ottomans, A Short History by Donald Quattard. Quattard is a renowned historian who explores the origins and rise of the Ottoman Empire. In this book, he examines the period leading up to the founding of the Ottoman state and explains how the Ghazi Ideal played a significant role in shaping their identity and worldview. He argues that the Ghazi Ideal was more than just a military strategy or a religious duty. It was a way of life that permeated every aspect of Ottoman society. By reading this book, you'll gain a deeper appreciation for the motivations and values that drove the early Ottoman conquerors and the impact it had on the empire's trajectory. You can find this book and other great books on our website. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep learning and stay curious.